the success of Ring, Koji Suzuki got to work on a sequel, and in 1995 came out with Spiral, or Rasen. Spiral centers on a new protagonist as he squares off against Sadako's latest volley against humanity. While Ring ends with Asakawa as a survivor about to unleash a cursed videotape pandemic upon the world, Suzuki goes in a completely different direction and instead kills off all the survivors and subverts the cursed reproductive cycle. If Sadako wants to conquer the world, she has to be more creative. Spiral starts the trend of the book series being incredibly meta, Freudian, and about large-scale events. Ring was like Dracula meets Sleepaway Camp, but Spiral is like Species meets Neon Genesis Evangelion. It blurs the line between fiction and reality with an in-universe version of Ring, and implies that Sadako might exist in our universe. Things are about to get rather queer. Spiral was directly adapted into a 1998 Japanese film, released as the sequel to the 1998 Ring adaptation, and a 1999 Japanese TV series, following a TV adaptation of Ring the same year, with the 1995 Ring TV movie as a sort of tie-in film, existing in the same universe as Spiral. Various elements from the book were mined for other entries in the Ring film series. I'll mostly use the 1998 film to illustrate it. The book takes place one day after the ending of Ring, and centers on a grieving father named Ando, who, 2 years ago, was unable to save his young son, Takanori, from drowning in a tragic accident that caused him and his wife to split up. Just before a current pulled Takanori out to sea, a tangle of his hairs got snagged on Ando's wedding ring, and that's now all he has of a son's body. I imagine Suzuki was looking at his Japanese to English dictionary and looking at all the entries for Ring and was like, now how do I work in a jewelry ring? After dreaming of these horrific events, Ando wakes to his estranged wife's call. A ring. Suzuki writes this in such a way as to fool us into thinking that it's Sadako, but it's his wife, demanding he sign divorce papers. She's so distraught and angry that she can't think straight, and accuses him of never caring about their son. This is plainly untrue, and he tries to advocate for himself, but she refuses to listen to reason. Here we see more of Suzuki playing with gender roles. The wife acts like a stereotypical hysterical woman, but on the other hand, even though Ando is the more rational man, he's also very emotionally invested in his son. The loss of his son hits him really hard, so it's kind of an androgynous element comparable to Asakawa in Ring. While Ando's wife is being unfair and yelling about him not caring, he asks her what she wants him to do now. What can he do to make the situation better? Unreasonably, she demands nothing less than him returning her son to her. Of course, he wishes he could, but can't. After all, no one can come back from the dead. Ando is a city coroner and kind of a nerd who gets excited about dissecting bodies. I suspect that Suzuki intended him to come off as creepy, but he just reads as autistic to me, with a socially taboo but useful hyperfixation. After struggling with suicidal ideation, Ando goes into work to perform an autopsy on a body that turns out to be an old classmate of his, Ryuji Takayama, who died at the end of Ring through Sadako's curse, and came back as a ghost, seemingly just long enough to tell Asakawa how to break the curse. However, Suzuki retcons this by having Ando develop a heightened ESP and be able to perceive Ryuji's ghost hanging around in what first seems to be a scary daydream. One abandoned plot thread from Ring that I didn't get into in my review of it is that everyone has some degree of psychic ability, and Shizuko was blessed with an extremely powerful degree of psychic power as a reward for rescuing a mystic's idol from American soldiers. Sadako then inherited that power and passed on the blessing to Asakawa after he did her a favor by recovering her skeleton to lay it properly to rest. As the book ends, he appears to have Sadako-level superpowers. However, Suzuki did not continue this plot thread in Spiral. Instead, he implies that everyone is starting to substantially develop their innate psychic ability as part of humanity's evolution, I think. Maybe it's just characters in loose proximity to Sadako. Maybe he was just fudging it, I don't know. The third book, Loop, is incredibly psychedelic, strongly giving the impression that Suzuki was experimenting with various drugs as he was writing it. The part of Ring where Ryuji muses about the superiority of intersex people reads like Suzuki might have been high and just started rambling about how smallpox is a virus that is superior for being asexual, which is primordial and close to God. And isn't it amazing to think about male and female not being two separate states of being but combined in one? Isn't that amazing? This is put into context at the end of Ring, when Mai Takano reveals Ryuji was chaste and androgynous. We can see that he was likening smallpox, Sadako, and himself as he was rambling about superior states of being. Though it never gets an on-screen appearance, the Kami of smallpox is a character existing in the background, so while the reference to smallpox is bizarre, there is method to the madness. Now, in Spiral, when Ando examines Ryuji's body, he first marvels over how macho Ryuji looks, with his barrel chest and strong arms, but then determines that Ryuji had a micropenis in stark contrast to his otherwise masculine appearance. With shock, he realizes that Ryuji, a man he thought had sex all the time, probably never could with his anatomy. This pretty much confirms the implication in Ring that Ryuji completely made up being a rapist to make Asakawa view him as much more masculine and dangerous than he actually was, and suggests the idea that he is like Sadako, as someone extremely horny, yet unable to have sex, and that this desire manifests in destructive ways. To be clear, this also makes Ryuji intersex. Micropenis is an intersex condition caused by feminizing hormones affecting a male baby in the womb. Due to widespread jokes about micropenis as a sort of male spiritual failing, it's unclear if Suzuki intended Ryuji to literally be intersex, or just physically androgynous, as an extension of his general thematic androgyny. But it technically makes him a canonical intersex character. It's unclear if this is a new development in the character exclusively for Spiral, or just a reveal of something that Suzuki had in mind for Ryuji in Ring, but it retroactively makes Ryuji's musing about intersex people as a next stage of evolution self-aggrandizing. Ando investigates Ryuji's death to the extent of questioning Mai, Ryuji's bereaved best friend, everyone mistook for his lover, and Ando falls head over heels for her. Mai is herself an androgynous character. She strikes Ando as strangely masculine in her assertive behavior, in contrast with her feminine appearance. While Asakawa initially thought that Ryuji was a butch guy sexually exploiting her as a traditionally feminine woman, we now see her as a bit of a butch woman who related to Ryuji by complementing his femininity. The fourth book, Birthday, later implies that she's kind of Ryuji's assigned female at birth counterpart, someone who exaggerates her femininity to counteract a more masculine appearance. It indicates that though she appears to be an archetypal hottie, she actually can't get laid. Though every guy wants her the moment they see her with her clothes on, as soon as they get her undressed, they get turned off by her shockingly flat chest, a masculine trait, and ditch her. Just as Ring seemed to have gay subtext between Asakawa and Ryuji, Spiral might have bi subtext surrounding Ando and his relationships with Ryuji, Mai, and Sadako. Ando really liked Ryuji back in school, and talks at length about how much he admired Ryuji's brilliant mind and strong arms. His various interactions with Ryuji's ghost throughout the plot can be compared to Asakawa and Ryuji's interactions in Ring. It's unclear how androgynous Suzuki intended Mai to be in Spiral versus Birthday, but she at least has an androgynous personality, if not body, in Spiral, and Ando's attraction could be interpreted as queer. Though Sadako's physical attraction is implied to be her own horniness, psychically projected onto the people around her, his later attraction to her causes him to become insecure at the reveal of her intersex nature, and the whole thing could be interpreted as bisexual subtext. By investigating Ryuji's death, Ando also stumbles onto the mystery of the cursed videotape. Like George Lucas inventing midi-chlorians as a pseudoscientific explanation for how the Force works, Suzuki provides an answer to a question that no one asked, and explains how Sadako's curse works with a virus that Ando can examine under a microscope. A hybrid of smallpox and human, the child of Sadako in the kami, that he names the ring virus, based on its physical similarity to a wedding ring. An illustration is provided in the book. This represents another meaning of the title. Motivated by Ando's inquiries about Ryuji's copy of the videotape, Mai unwittingly looks for it and watches it. Upon realization of what it is, she tapes over it, so the curse would die with her. However, Sadako notices that Mai is ovulating and mutates the ring virus to have a new effect, effectively raping Mai by transforming the ring virus into evil sperm that impregnates her. This evil sperm is called the broken ring virus. In this way, Ghost Sadako manifests the androgyny of a male rapist in an evil version of human Sadako's intersex androgyny, retaining her human sexual desire and perverting it. Sadako's name meaning chastity is now an ironic name. Notably, the movie removes this queer element. Sadako can't take the role of a man, so Ando's own sperm are hijacked by the curse, making him more masculine and her more feminine. It's a magic Rosemary's Baby style pregnancy that develops extremely fast. Ghost Sadako is reborn within Mai's womb and uses her psychic powers to control Mai's actions, steering her to an exhaust shaft on the roof of a city building to give birth. This shaft, referred to poetically as the coffin in the sky, is compared to the well where Sadako died, and birthday explicitly gives the meaning of a symbolic vaginal canal. There, Mai gives birth to an ubermensch baby version of Sadako, who kills Mai with her psychic powers and runs off. Baby Sadako grows into an adult in a matter of days, and is now a mix of both her original human nice girl personality and evil ghost personality, having memories from both versions of her existence. When Ghost Sadako encoded the evil sperm, she made her new human form manifest a different type of intersex condition. Instead of androgen insensitivity syndrome, where human Sadako had testes in place of ovaries, reborn Sadako has a fictionalized version of ovotesticular syndrome, with both ovaries and testes. In the real version of this condition, only one of the kinds of sex organ is ever functional, and often both are non-functional. However, reborn Sadako has both functional ovaries and testes, and she can give birth to clones of herself, each one also having access to her memories, being able to rapidly age to adult form, and possessing psychic powers. In this way, reborn Sadako represents the next stage of evolution, as outlined by Ryuji and Ring, an intersex person who manifests as a human virus. When a supporting character named Miyashita learns of this, he has pronoun confusion and suggests that it might be more appropriate than she to refer to Sadako. The book ignores this and consistently refers to Sadako as she. I'm forgiving of Suzuki for depicting the initial confusion cis-dyadic people have, because he humanizes Sadako by framing her as a woman with complicated parts. While Ando investigates Mai's mysterious death, he runs into reborn Sadako, who appears similar to Mai, possibly because she shares some of her genes, I'm not clear on that, and she takes the role of Mai's sister, Masako. Her identity is presented as a mystery to the reader that they're able to figure out. She is creepy, like a ghost, but clearly human. As she did in her original human life, she psychically broadcasts her own sexual desire, and Ando finds himself attracted while simultaneously unnerved. For those of you who like femme fatales with hypnotic eyes, it's highly implied that Sadako is one of these. Ando initiates sexual contact, and Sadako consensually has sex with him, in the dark, where he can't see that she's intersex. After hooking up, they part ways. Ando does his own thing for a bit, eventually runs into her again, and they hook up a second time. This time, there's a shocking reveal where Ando becomes aware that she's Sadako, and he gets all bent out of shape over having had sex with an intersex person, getting grossed out over the thought of her male genitalia. Like with Asakawa and Ring, this framing doesn't last forever, with Sadako being framed as a woman with extra parts, but his bigoted reaction is obnoxious to read as an intersex person. Sadako makes Ando an offer he can't refuse. If he becomes her accomplice, she'll use her specialized uterus to bring Takanori back to life. All she needs is his DNA, which Ando has in the hair sample he saved. Like Asakawa being willing to forfeit the human race to save his wife and daughter, Ando makes the deal to return Takanori back to him and repair his relationship with his wife. Though this copy of Takanori is a different person, a clone, he's close enough to be someone that Ando can love. It's indicated that Ando can never undo his mistake. The original Takanori died, and that still means something. However, the second Takanori grows to the exact age at which the hair was pulled out, with the same memories as the original person, because Suzuki thinks that memories are stored in DNA. So it's like Takanori is almost a ghost of the original one, fitting in the theme of close but imperfect copies, as a form of asexual reproduction, subject to mutation. As part of the deal, Sadako tells him to fetch the tissue sample he saved of Ryuji's body, so she can bring him back as well. Ando realizes that Ryuji's ghost, guiding him this whole time, was actually orchestrating everything. While the original Ryuji loved Mai and would never hurt her, Ryuji came back as an evil spirit and sacrificed her to Sadako in a bid to come back to life. Following Sadako's ghost in imperfect asexual reproduction, motivated by being an incel in life. Like, Suzuki couldn't have anticipated incel culture, but he identified how horny people who can't get laid can be destructive, and that's what happens with Sadako and Ryuji. Both of them basically bend reality to have sex, something that in loop ends up with them reproducing into a whole other universe. Suzuki also inserts this random note that if Sadako obtained the DNA of dinosaurs, she could use her uterus to create clones of dinosaurs. Basically meaning that Suzuki is a big nerd and into Jurassic Park, which also has the elements of weird genetics and androgyny as the dinosaurs shift from female to male. They're essentially intersex animals. This book is bananas. B-A-N-A-N-A-S. Bananas. Bananas. The reborn Ryuji is kind of a wild card, implied to be both the original Ryuji and the evil ghost, combined into a new person, just as the reborn Sadako was both the original and the ghost. While the reborn Sadako has a childlike innocence, she is still a bad guy. She's going to continue to spread the ring virus. However, Ryuji is more ambiguous. He has developed a vaccine for the ring virus to protect Ando and Takanori, and while he has a nihilistic justification for allowing Sadako to replace the human race with her clones, he also seemingly roots for humanity, wherever it ends up. He gives a lecture about how evolution makes no sense because the author doesn't understand it, and suggests that change is made through the collective will of a species, alluding to the idea that everyone's innate psychic ability is responsible for the ring virus. Humanity was bored and wanted to change. Sadako is truly the next stage of evolution.
これからまた次の段階への進化が始まるんだ。
He also alludes to the collective consent to be governed by a state, to suggest that humanity collectively chose to have control over their evolution taken away, which is in theme with Sadako being so horny that she subconsciously uses her psychic power to make a man decide to rape her. Humanity is so horny for the next evolutionary stage that it's compelling Sadako to rape people with her curse and bring the next development. It's bizarre and doesn't really make sense, but it's effective cosmic horror. A subplot has Asakawa's write-up of the events of Ring, recovered by his brother and published as a work of fiction called Ring, implied to be the original book itself. Asakawa's brother presumably uses the pen name Koji Suzuki. One of the strengths of Suzuki's writing is his ability to paint a scene in such vivid terms that it comes alive in your head. And I'm sure this was praised in the reviews of Ring, because in Spiral it receives a winking nod. The in-universe Ring is infected with Sadako's curse and becomes a new form of the cursed videotape. Like Asakawa and Ryuji experiencing the creepy imagery in high-definition psychic broadcast, anyone who reads the book gets Sadako's psychic visions of the events broadcasted into their minds. They think that they're reading exceptional prose that makes the scenes come alive, but they're actually getting psychic visions and a curse where they have to make other people read the book to stay alive. It's very meta and a silly marketing gimmick. Buy copies of my book for your friends or else. This ties into the 1995 TV film adaptation of Ring, where it's indicated that the actress playing Sadako is the reborn Sadako herself, spreading her curse. Anyone who watches it will need to make their friends watch it to be spared, and ovulating women will be impregnated with evil sperm, enabling Sadako's viral reproduction. The Sadako pandemic has begun! Ando will take Takanori to reunite with his wife, making up a story about how Takanori was rescued by fishermen and had amnesia for 2 years. Ando gives it a 50-50 shot that he and his wife will get back together. They'll move to a small, isolated island and do their best to ride out the apocalypse. Spiral is a weird book. It's a supernatural thriller, and it's also a medical thriller, and it's an existential Freudian meditation on where humanity is headed. The title refers to the spread of the ring virus, a spiral staircase leading up to Mai's apartment, water spiraling down Mai's bathroom drain, a swirl of hair that's goose flesh on Ando's back, the spiral of a DNA helix, and the way specimens of the ring virus spiral in a petri dish. The original title Ring was used in the original book to mean the view up through the well, the phone ringing, the curse being an important event to pay attention to, as with the idiom, a shot rings out, and the cyclical nature of Asakawa pulling Sadako's skeleton up from the well, like Shizuko pulled the mystic's idol from the ocean. And now Spiral adds the meanings of Ando's wedding ring, the ring virus, a message from Ryuji, and the in-universe ring book, as well as maybe 1 or 2 other ones I forget. You could play a drinking game with the title references. As far as intersex representation goes, I hope you like intersex villains, because Sadako is both overtly intersex and built up as a diabolical supervillain. Personally, I think it's kind of cool. At the same time, it is a turnoff for a lot of intersex people. The fictionalization of ovotesticular syndrome is a bit outlandish, but not significantly weirder than the whole concept of reborn Sadako. I'm willing to accept it, but it is a deal breaker for a lot of people. Your mileage may vary. Ryuji is more or less the same kind of representation, a twist villain and evil genius. Whether or not Suzuki intended Ryuji to be intersex, the detail that he has micropenis means that he is. Though definitely creepy, he's also built up as a cool villain. It would be great if there were any intersex characters in this narrative who weren't villainous, besides the past, pre-ghost human versions of Sadako and Ryuji. But that's not the story Suzuki wanted to tell. However, due to the power of retcons, Lupin Birthday will ultimately make Ryuji heroic. Mai is just generally androgynous, but her appearance in Birthday makes me wonder if she's also supposed to be intersex, in parallel with Sadako and/or Ryuji. That might be a retcon in Birthday, but it adds an additional layer of meaning to her role in Spiral. Spiral continues Ring's theme of androgyny, but this time frames it from the perspective of a more traditionally masculine man. Ando isn't as overtly androgynous as Asakawa, but he does get a bit of that treatment, as well as possible bi subtext. By making him more traditionally masculine, it creates an effective framing where Ando is grounded, while the world around him becomes progressively chaotic. His attitude of disgust towards Sadako's intersexuality is part of that, and it's hard to read, but he does get over it. Ghost stories are often based around fears of the inevitability of death, where a character is terrified of the state of death, represented by a ghost, and are literally stalked by death, threatened with the concept of becoming that which hunts them. In the end, they must become one with death, whether or not they accept it. Sadako has that quality, but she is also queer and carries the threat of making her victims also become queer like her. Ando's little freakout is based on the idea of a gay man making him perform a gay act and effectively become queer against his will. The ring virus likewise threatens to transform the human race into a master race of Sadako clones. This basic theme shows up in the 2000 video game, The Ring Terror's Realm, in which the ring virus transforms people into weird monsters. You're made weird like her, queer like her. This is a bizarre story, but it's androgynous with these cool intersex supervillains and a thematically androgynous protagonist, and I like it. It's weird, it's flawed, but it's fun. Anyway, remember to give this video a like, subscribe if you haven't already, consider donating to me on Patreon, and you'll absolutely want to share this video, or in 7 days...
キリンさんが見てテナガザルこっちはゾウさんだ
ちーちゃんは長いのが好きなんだね
別に意識してるわけじゃないけど
気のせいかLong, long前にも言ったねあの長い人
避ける組対長い避ける組